هذا القرآن يوحدنا لطريق الخير.
We want to focus now for a while on Gog and Magog. Why? وحرام على قرية أهلكناها أنهم لا يرجعون حتى إذا فتحت ياجوج وماجوج وهم من كل حدب ينسلون. Come on, somebody help me. Anbiya, Suratul Anbiya, Surah number 21. Allah speaks of a town which He has destroyed. The people of the town have been exiled, sent out, and He's placed a ban on them. They could never return to reclaim that town as their own. Until Gog and Magog have been released, Futihat, open. And they spread out in all directions, or they come down from every height. Using our methodology, and this is the book in which I have done it, the Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world, and my wife has just informed me that we're running out of some copies, but never mind, give your name, and we'll try to get the books to you, inshallah, if we run out of copies. When Gog and Magog are released, and they descend from every height, or they spread out in all directions, then you'll find these people returning to this town to reclaim it as their own. And using our methodology, we came to the conclusion that the town is Jerusalem. And therefore, when you see Banu Israel being brought back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own, which they have done today, then there must be an explanation for that. And this is our explanation. The Quran says about itself in Surah An-Nahl, Surah number 16, it says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَنَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً وَبُشْرَى لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ. And we have sent down this book, the Quran, with an explanation in it for all things. تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. This is a book which explains all things. It doesn't tell you how to fry fish, because you don't need that guidance from Allah. But all those things wherein you need guidance from Allah, Allah provides the answers. Banu Israel were driven out of the Holy Land 2,000 years ago or more. And for 2,000 years they lived in exile. Today, after 2,000 years, they have returned to the Holy Land and reclaimed it as their own. And today I ask, as I have asked again and again the scholars of Islam, I even mention, I don't normally call people by their names, but I even mentioned the name of Dr. Yusuf Qaradawi in a public lecture to send a message. Please, is this happening by accident? Is it by accident that they have returned to the Holy Land after 2,000 years to reclaim the Holy Land as their own? Is it by accident that they have restored a state of Israel in the Holy Land? Are these things happening by accident? Or is there an explanation? And if there is an explanation, tell us what it is. but they won't answer me. They won't answer me. The scholars of Islam will not answer me. No. I say there is an explanation. And the explanation is in the Quran. The town is Jerusalem. And so when you see Banu Israel being brought back to the Holy Land, it is these two ayat of Surah Al-Anbiya which explain that it is Gog and Magog who have brought them back. And so Gog and Magog control power in the world. This is my explanation that I have found in the Quran. What is yours? No matter what I do, no matter how softly I speak, no matter how loudly I shout, they will not answer me. This is the world of Islamic scholarship today. It's a pity. They will not answer me. But time is running out for them. Events are unfolding. And so now we turn to the study of Gog and Magog. And we don't have time today to do an exhaustive study, but we turn to Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran. And it is on the third journey that you come to one of the major signs of Akhiru Zaman, which was the target of the question. They wanted to know whether Nabi Muhammad ﷺ knew about Gog and Magog. When they had learned to communicate with each other, then these people spoke to Zulkarnain and said to him, Ya Zulkarnain, O Zulkarnain, Inna Yaajuj wa Majuj mufsiduna fil ard. Gog and Magog are committing acts of fasad in our territory. There are many sins that we can commit, but only some of them are called crimes. A sin you punished up there, but a crime you punish here as well. And amongst the crimes, amongst the criminal acts that we can commit, there are gradations of punishment. Like if you steal, cut off your hand. But the punishment that is severest of all is the punishment for fasad. It is not only that which corrupts but also destroys. So societies can collapse. Societies can be destroyed because of fasad, not just individuals or families. And fasad comes in many different forms. For example, Sodom and Gomorrah and their homosexuality. That's fasad. The corruption of agriculture. That's fasad. Many different kinds of fasad described in the Quran. And a good student will want to do some research and write a paper on fasad in the Quran. So Gog and Magog have PhDs in fasad. And so the punishment is the most terrible of all. At the lowest level of punishment is banishment. The worst punishment in the Quran. And this is what Gog and Magog do. But in the hadith, Allah speaks about Gog and Magog and He says, I have created creatures of mine so powerful, Sahih Muslim, that none but I can destroy them. So they have almost an indestructible power. And they use their power exactly opposite to Zulkarnain. He uses his power to punish the oppressor. But they use their power to oppress. He uses his power to reward those who are righteous in conduct and treat them nicely. They use their power to wage war on the believers. he uses his power in such a way that shows respect for human rights. Even the human rights of the Aborigines of Australia, the human rights of the American Indian tribes who loved the earth and respected the sky and the rivers and the sea and the trees and the birds far more than the American people would ever do. How do you treat these people? He respected their human rights and left them as they were, but not Gog and Magog. Today the American Indians and the Canadian Indians are in prison, and they're drinking alcohol, and they're wearing blue jeans and eating McDonald's hamburgers. That's where they are today, from what they were before. Oh Zulkarnain, can you help us? You have the power. Can you build a barrier to protect us from these people? He should have said, I don't need to build any barrier. I'll move in there and I'll beat them up, and they won't touch you anymore. Huh? Like if a Muslim woman is walking on the street of Brooklyn, nobody dares to molest her. Oh no, not a Muslim woman. Not in Brooklyn, not in Harlem, not in the Bronx. Because you make the mistake of molesting a Muslim woman, all the men will be on you like tigers, and they'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget. And then he says, هذا رحمة من ربي. Gog and Magog could neither scale the barrier nor could they penetrate it, so they are now trapped behind the barrier. And so Zulkarnain now says, هذا رحمة من ربي. This barrier is constructed in consequence of Allah's kindness and grace. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي. But when that time comes of which my word has warned, إِذَا فُتِحَتْ, they will not return to reclaim the town as their own until إِذَا فُتِحَتْ, until Gog and Magog are released. When that time comes for Gog and Magog to be released, so that Banu Israel are to be brought back to the Holy Land, جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا, brought back as a motley crowd. At that time, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا, Allah is going to bring down this barrier and it become dust. Would Alexander, the Greek general who worshipped Zeus and Mars and Venus was a goddess, instead of Allah, would he speak like this? And yet you have so many people saying Zulkarnain was Alexander, or Zulkarnain was some Zoroastrian who was an emperor of Persia. Zulkarnain has to be someone who worships Allah, the one God. When that time comes of which my Lord has warned, He's going to cause this barrier to collapse, to become ruins. And then at that time, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْدَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. Allah will then cause Gog and Magog, it seems, to surge against each other like waves crashing against each other. Or Allah will cause mankind to enter into an age of universal anarchy, with people surging against each other, clashing with each other all over the earth. وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْدَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. And when you see these things happening on the face of the earth, you know the trumpet is coming. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمْعًا وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَرْضًا. And on that day we shall place hell for all to see. In other words, this world is going to become a living hell before the eyes of those who deny the truth. الذين كانت أعينهم في غطاء عن ذكري وكانوا لا يستطيعون السمع. They are those whose eyes have been veiled against any remembrance of Allah. They could not bear to listen to the voice of truth. And then finally, this verse has to be included in the passage. أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِي أَوْلِيَاءَ إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ نُزُلًا. Do they who reject the truth, do they perchance believe that they would succeed in embracing my true servants who worship me to become their awliya, their friends and their allies, while excluding me? And thus to trap them in the world which will become a living hell. Verily we have readied hell, Jahannam, to welcome all those who deny the truth. This is the passage of the Quran that introduces the subject of Gog and Magog. Now let's turn to the pictures and see whether we can locate it.